everybody, my name is Ifeinwa Omesiete and I am a pediatric nutritionist. Welcome to my channel. If this is your first time, hi! If this is not, welcome back. If you haven't subscribed yet, you should, and if you haven't checked out all the other videos that are on the channel, I highly recommend that you do so. You're absolutely going to love the content here. I want to give you all the tools that you need to succeed most efficiently and most importantly, how to do it to the best of your ability. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about iron deficiency. Now, I've broken this down into 4 major categories, right? So the 4 major categories that we're going to be talking about today are what is iron, because you have to know what it is. The second one is going to be what is iron deficiency, right? The third one is going to be what do I need to look out for? What are some of the danger zones that I need to be aware of? And then the final part is what foods should I get, or what foods are high in iron, right? Now, stay till the end of this video because I have a special gift for you, especially if you make it to the end, all right? So without further ado, let's get started.
Your love is rated X. That means you're extraordinary.
So the first part is, what is iron? Iron is a mineral that we use in the body to produce a protein that's found in the red blood cells called hemoglobin. Now there is another kind of protein called myoglobin. However, we're going to focus on hemoglobin. So hemoglobin is basically found in our red blood cells and it helps the body transport oxygen from the lungs throughout the rest of the body, right? While myoglobin is actually found in the muscles that helps to transport oxygen to the muscles and helps it store it there. So you can see that iron is really, really important. And your body actually stores iron because it's not sure if you're going to be giving your child enough iron or if you're going to be taking enough iron yourself. And that is why it is so important that we have enough iron in the body. Now, I'm based in Nigeria and my focus is clinical work in helping children in Africa. Now, Africa has been predominantly known to have children who are suffering from iron deficiency, either from medical conditions or not having good access to foods that contain enough iron, right? Whatever the case may be, it's really important that we know what iron deficiency is, and that's what's going to lead me to talk about the next part. What is iron deficiency? Now, iron deficiency can happen in 3 stages, right? We're going to go from top to bottom. Now, the first one is iron depletion. Now, this is where your hemoglobin levels in your blood are at a normal level. However, your iron stores are low. Now, this is a bit tricky because this is the beginning stage. So there's never really an obvious symptom that you're actually going to be iron deficient, right? And the second stage is what we call iron deficiency. Now, this is where your hemoglobin levels are low and your iron stores are also low. Now, this is usually where most people actually find out that they don't have enough iron. I'll give you an example. So you take your child to the hospital, maybe they've fallen sick or something, and they do what we call a full blood count. Now, in the full blood count, they are going to test for different components in your blood. Now, one of the components they are going to test is what we call packed cell volume, which is PCV. And most of the time, that's usually the best indicator or one of the few indicators that your child's blood levels, which is usually their hemoglobin levels, are low. That can also signify that there might not be enough iron stores. Now, there are other tests you can do. So you can test your iron stores, you can test your blood level stores and all of that stuff. But that's usually one of the easiest and the fastest ways because the doctor can easily tell you, oh, look, your child is iron deficient. You need to up their iron-rich food intake, right? Now, the third and the final stage of this iron deficiency is iron deficiency anemia. Now, this is the last and usually the most serious stage, right? This is where the hemoglobin levels are low, the iron stores are also low. However, the iron stores are so low that hemoglobin is not able to transport enough oxygen to different parts of the body. Now, this is critical and this can be difficult. So if you find that your child is at this stage, which you really don't want, the first place you need to be heading to is a hospital, so that if there need to be any kind of prescriptions that need to be given to the child, or if there's other kind of procedures and measures that need to happen, they can happen immediately. Now, other areas that could also indicate that there is, iron deficiency anemia, it's going to affect growth and development, right? So your child might not actually be developing at their best ability, and they may not be growing properly. Another aspect is low immunity. Now, for iron deficiency, which is the second stage, tiredness and fatigue could be some of the symptoms, but those are also symptoms of other conditions. So I would strongly suggest that you do not self-diagnose, okay? Take note of that. Do not self-diagnose iron deficiency. Now, before I talk about what you should look out for, I want to get a couple things out of the way. I want to talk about something called baseline. So every human being has a different baseline, right? My baseline might actually be your baseline as defined as being iron deficient. So you want to keep track of your baseline. Some people actually have really high iron stores. For example, I have really high iron stores. Ask me how I know. I found out when I was pregnant with my children. I was taking prenatal vitamins and I realized that my iron stores were really high. And iron stores being really high and having too much iron in the body can be dangerous, can cause health risks, and can be an issue. Now, I did not find this out on my own. I found out by running tests in the hospital, okay? So this is not a self-diagnosis. You need to go to a hospital to run some tests, do a physical examination. I had some symptoms that made me wonder what was going on, and that's how I went to the hospital and found out this information. However, everyone is different, so just keep that in mind. That's why it's important to know what your baseline is and to actually test for it, all right? So there is a range, and this range spreads from different age brackets. Now, I will point out the age brackets that need iron the most and need to ensure that their iron levels are at a good amount. Number one, children who are within the ages of 6 to 12 months, because they are actually transitioning to solids. Now, more than I would like to see, I've seen a number of patients who have low iron stores or have iron depletion or iron deficiency when their child is about 8-9 months. And the reason for that is the child is still heavily on breast milk. Now, I'm going to talk about this a little bit. When a child is born, they have enough iron stores, right? They have enough to support them. The only children that don't have enough iron stores to support them are children who are born prematurely or children who have a low birth weight. But if it's a normal birth, there are no issues at birth, then you have enough iron stores. That's why you can breastfeed, because breast milk doesn't actually have any iron. Even if it does, it's not enough. So that's why being born with enough iron stores keeps you for a good 6 months. Now, when you cross the 6-month mark, you need to be extra mindful of the kind of foods that your child is eating. Now, if your child is picky, if your child doesn't eat enough foods that contain iron-rich content, if you're not feeding them enough foods that contain enough iron, that's where you're going to have iron deficiency. And like I said, in Africa, this seems to be really, really high because we don't feed enough foods that contain iron. Another part is teenagers. If your teenager does not eat properly, this is going to affect menstruation if it's a female child. It's going to affect his hormone balance if it's a male child, and it will affect puberty. Really important to keep this in mind. Also, if you are a pregnant woman, please, please, please know that you need more iron than the average person. You need more. So 3 people that I've talked about that need more. Children within the ages of 6 to 12 months need more because their iron stores have been depleted. Another set of people are people who are in the adolescent age who will either be entering into the menstrual cycle or teenagers, both male and female. Another set is pregnant women or people who have started a menstrual cycle or are on their period, okay? So keep note of that. Now, I've already talked about how having too much iron can be really dangerous, and that's why you do need to go to a hospital. So now I've touched all the major aspects. Now let's talk about some foods that provide good enough iron for you and why you need to have them in your diet. Now, before I talk about the kinds of foods that are iron rich, I want to touch on something that we don't actually pay attention to, and I really need us to start doing so. Weight gain and iron deficiency. There is this whole, excitement and trend about my baby needs to gain weight, my baby needs to gain weight, my baby needs to gain weight, my baby needs to gain weight. So you're pumping your baby, you're stuffing your baby's eating so much food and you're getting weight and you're getting chubby and all of that lovely stuff. However, if your child gains weight too fast than the iron stores that they have, or their weight is too much for the volume of blood that they have, your child is going to be iron deficient. Did you get that? I need you to understand that, okay? And the only time you will know that this is an issue is when you go to a hospital and you test. So more than likely, if your child never really falls sick, you would actually never know if they're iron deficient, right? Because you're thinking, oh, my baby's healthy, they're chubby, they're looking light-skinned. You can be pale, right? And be iron deficient. So I really, really want to ring this in that what is happening internally needs to be looked at, because what is happening externally might not be enough evidence that your child has iron deficiency or iron deficiency anemia. All right? So now that I've gotten that statement out of the way, let's talk about these foods. So they're split into two categories. The first category is heme iron foods, and the third one is non-heme iron foods. Now, there are some foods that fall into heme and non-heme iron foods. Now, the foods that fall into that bracket are your protein sources, your animal protein sources, so like beef and gizzard and liver, chicken, what else is on this list? Seafood. All these really are good sources of heme iron. Now, animal proteins also contain non-heme iron, but they do have a fairly decent amount of heme iron that you need. Now, another part that I do want to talk about is certain foods that do not fall under the heme iron major sources, but can still give you some good non-heme iron, which are still animal products. So things like eggs and dairy. So anything that contains milk has a fairly decent amount of, cow's milk specifically, has a fairly decent amount of non-heme iron that could be good for the body. Now, heme iron is more easily absorbed by the body. It doesn't pose as a struggle. There's not really too much work going on for your body to absorb it, and it just makes life pretty easy in getting the iron that you need, right, to help you build hemoglobin. However, non-heme iron requires a little bit more. It's not easily absorbed by the body, and so you do need things like vitamin C to help ensure that you're able to absorb that better. Let me give you some examples of non-heme iron foods. This would include our leafy green vegetables, so your spinach, your kale, bitter leaf, shoko, what else is on this list? Ugu, those are leafy greens. Now we've got some beetroot, which is also another vegetable, and then grains, whole grains, not partially processed, not minimally, whole grains that have just been grounded and ready to consume. Now some processes, especially for grains, help you to increase the iron content. So for example, if you buy a grain that's been sprouted, that helps to increase some of the iron content that's present in the grain. Other things that contain non-heme iron are legumes. I love legumes. Your beans, your lentils, your chickpeas. All of these are good sources of non-heme iron. Seeds as well, things like pumpkin seeds, also good sources of non-heme iron. And then of course nuts. So cashew nuts would have a little bit, ground nuts would also have a little bit as well. So those were the examples of heme and non-heme iron. Now, I have a gift for you. Now, if you're concerned that you're not sure if your child is eating enough foods that are iron rich, if you're not sure if your child is actually iron deficient and you want a clinical perspective, or you just feel that you need somebody to talk to about this, I am available. And because you're watching this video, I'm going to offer you a 30% discount on consultations. Just make sure all you have to say is, hey Iffy, I got to the end of your video and I want that discount. And it's yours. We'll book a consultation, talk some more about your child's peculiar condition and how we can get their iron stores back up. I hope this video has been insightful. You've gotten a good amount of information and you're excited about learning some more from me. So remember to subscribe. And if you haven't, check out The Kid Nutritionist on Instagram or on Facebook, or visit the website www.thekidnutritionist.com. Until next time, my name is Ife Omesiete, and it has been an absolute pleasure helping you find out if your child is iron deficient or not. Bye!